Head into the main hall and take the elevator down into the maintenance tunnels. You'll find a service passage that leads up into the trophy room. The maintenance tunnel is the only way up into the trophy room. Some technician barred the door shut on our end. Ask Tilda Coatsworth about it, over by the podium. Oh, you're quite welcome. I look forward to observing your results. What's on your mind? At the moment, nothing. I have a one-track mind. I can't stop thinking about that trophy. Why isn't it in my hands? When is it going to be in my hands? And so on and so forth. You get me that Best in Show trophy, and it'll clear my mind right up. My eye! I was wondering where I'd misplaced that old thing. It's perfectly preserved, you know. Every eye possesses unique dimensions, not unlike a fingerprint. The circumference, the shape, the color of the iris. An eye makes excellent proof of identification, assuming you don't mind removing one. Well, that's rather responsible of you. I'll put a good word in your permanent record. I'd rather not get into the details. If Spacer's Choice ever asks you to test out their new model of monocle, just say no. What's on your mind?
Oh, just hear me out. It's a brilliant idea.
Unexpected. Investigate.
Get down. You know, stealing from these assholes is its own reward. I usually just kick them down.
Come now, Anubis, you must...
Ugh, I've always hated these things. Basically sprats with an attitude.
Never cared much for hors d'oeuvres. The word is just grotesque. All those superfluous letters ruin my appetite. My trophy! Look at this thing! Have you ever seen a more garish monument to the boredom of the elite? If only Grandfather Mostly were alive today, I would have loved to wave this trophy right in front of his cataracts. I hope you won't take it personally when I say I had my doubts about you. Nothing ever gets done in Byzantium, you see. Competent work is, well, a statistical anomaly. Lifting the emergency lockdown requires overrides from the Chem Lab and Human Inquiry. Access to those facilities requires authorizations from 2 senior-level researchers, Marion Blakesley, Jasper Lowe. They went into hiding after the project collapsed, but I've managed to calculate their last known whereabouts within a reasonable margin of error. I see you're familiar with my technique. I'd love to show you my numbers, but there aren't nearly enough napkins in this room. After the project shut down, I had to keep my mind occupied. I worked on my actuarial tables, calculated the average lifespan of a Spacer's Choice worker, that sort of thing. I realized some of the researchers had to be alive. I ran some numbers, did a little research, and concluded that the 2 most likely survivors are Marion Blakesley and Jasper Lowe. Nonsense. I just needed a good old-fashioned statistical problem to busy my mind. Keeps the faculties lubricated. As far as I know, Jasper Lowe and Marion Blakesley are the only 2 surviving researchers with high-level clearance. If you want to lift the lockdown on the manufactory, you'll need to send an override from the Chem Lab and Human Inquiry. I'm afraid it's the only way. I know it feels like you're being led on. What is that colorful metaphor commoners use? A wild sprat chase? Remember, this is Spacer's Choice we're talking about. Their security protocols are just as inefficient and frustrating as their manufacturing. I'll tell you what I can. Dr. Marion Blakesley supervised the Human Inquiry and Auditing Facility. Live subjects, measuring tape and syringes, that sort of thing. Someone sabotaged the facility. Blakesley tendered her resignation and vanished. I'm reasonably certain she's hiding in a maintenance bay on Groundbreaker. Well, With Spacer's choice equipment, who even knows? Dr. Blakesley tendered her resignation lawfully, but under suspicious circumstances. If you want to know more, you'd best ask her yourself. Dr. Lowe described himself as a dazzling genius in his review. I disagreed. Of the 19 criteria that constitute the rubric of genius, Dr. Lowe only met 15. After the project shut down, corporate traded him off to Anti-Cleo in exchange for 5 lab coats. He's been transferred to an orbital lab around Olympus.
No, Captain. Lab coats, as in scientists.
Is your captain always this dense? How are you all still alive?
I live for risk.
Let's get back on topic. You'll find Dr. Lowe in an orbital lab around Olympus. Certainly. What's on your mind? Let's try to keep it down, shall we? At least pretend we're being discreet? There's not a lot about Project Gorgon I can tell you. I know that's not what you wanted to hear, but I closed that chapter in my life. I've moved on. Look, don't tell anyone I said this. But if there's anything I've learned by living in Byzantium, it's this. If you go looking for the truth, you are looking for trouble. All right. Ask your questions. And then if you don't mind, don't mention Project Gorgon anywhere near me again.